Okay, let's just dive right into this. We're all raised on this very simple, very powerful idea. More choice equals more freedom. And more freedom, well, that leads to more happiness. It just makes sense, right? But what if that core belief is completely wrong? And that's the central question in Barry Schwartz's incredible work, The Paradox of Choice. The whole idea is that the endless options we face every single day aren't really liberating us. They're actually, quietly, just exhausting us. And trust me, once you see this paradox, you will start seeing it absolutely everywhere. So let's start with that fundamental lie we've all bought into, that more is always better. We're going to unpack how this seemingly positive idea actually creates a pretty overwhelming reality for us. I mean, just think about a totally normal day. You walk into the supermarket and you're staring at a wall of 40 different types of cereal. You get home and you scroll through literally thousands of shows on streaming, probably for longer than you actually watch anything. You think about your career, and there are infinite paths you could take. You open a dating app, and the swiping, it is literally endless. Now, on the surface, all of this looks like amazing progress. And hey, in some ways, it is. But what it's really doing is creating this new kind of pressure. Every single one of those choices, big or small, now comes with this nagging little question in the back of your head: did I pick the absolute best one? And that pressure, it builds into something much, much heavier. See, the explosion of choice hasn't just given us more options. It's also handed us this huge new weight, the burden of being responsible for every single outcome. It wasn't always like this. Not that long ago, a lot of big decisions were simple because the options were just limited. Your utility company was a monopoly, you didn't shop around for phone plans or build a custom health insurance package from scratch. But today, life is like a giant, sprawling decision tree. We're all expected to design our own degrees, customize our own careers, and optimize every single aspect of our lives. And this chart illustrates the core problem perfectly. While our freedom has definitely exploded, the responsibility that comes along with it has exploded even more. We are now the sole architects of our lives, and wow, that is a tremendous amount of pressure to handle. So here's the crucial point. If you fail in a world with very few options, you can blame the system, right? Or just bad luck. But if you fail in a world where you had infinite options to choose from, well, that feels entirely like a personal failure. And psychologically, that is a devastating feeling. So why is this so difficult? Well, it turns out we're not even that good at choosing in the first place. Let's get into the psychological reasons why our brains are just not equipped to handle this level of choice. We really like to think we're rational, that we know what's going to make us happy. But the research shows we are terrible at predicting our own future emotions. We also don't remember experiences accurately at all. We just remember the most intense moment, the peak, and how it ended. So we're constantly making choices based on these distorted memories and totally faulty forecasts. And this brings us to this idea of opportunity cost. With so many alternatives out there, every single yes you say to one thing is automatically a no to dozens, maybe even hundreds of other things. So instead of just enjoying your decision, your mind gets haunted by all the other lives you could be living. It just quietly poisons your satisfaction. And even if you do make the perfect choice, our brains have another trick up their sleeve: hedonic adaptation. That awesome new car, that new job, that new house, the excitement, it always fades. We just return to our baseline level of happiness. It means that even the best choices lose their emotional power over time, which leaves us looking for the next best thing. And this all adds up. In a lot of developed nations, as wealth and the number of consumer choices have gone way up, our collective happiness has not. In fact, rates of anxiety and depression have often risen right alongside them. We're simply not wired for constant optimization. We're wired for meaning and for progress. So what do we do about this? Well, Barry Schwartz gives us a really powerful framework by identifying two types of decision makers. And this is probably one of the most practical and insightful parts of his whole idea. So on one side, you have the maximizers. These are the folks who have to find the absolute best option. They will research endlessly, they compare obsessively, and they're haunted by what if, even after they've made a choice. And then on the other side, you have satisficers. They don't look for the best, they just look for good enough. They have a set of standards, and once something meets them, they choose it and they move on. And here it is, the most important takeaway. Satisficers are consistently happier people. And it's not because they have objectively better lives or somehow make better choices. It's because they have quieter minds. They're not stuck in that cycle of endless optimization. They're just busy living.
Which leads us to our final and honestly most practical section. The answer isn't to get rid of choice entirely. No way. It's about learning how to actively constrain it and to find a new kind of freedom by setting our own limits.
So how do you actually do it? Well, you create systems. You set rules for yourself to simplify decisions you have to make over and over. You create defaults so you don't even have to think. You establish clear standards for what good enough actually looks like. And you set boundaries, because every decision you remove from your plate is mental energy you get to reclaim.
We tend to think of things like commitment and rules and structure as things that trap us. But this just reframes that whole idea. They don't trap you. They stabilize you. They reduce all the noise of infinite options, and they allow you to protect your focus and preserve what's actually meaningful to you. And this brings us to the real paradox of it all. The more you fight to keep every single option open, the less satisfied you actually become. It's only when you start to deliberately and confidently close some doors that life begins to feel lighter and so much more manageable. Ultimately, the goal isn't to engineer the perfect life from some infinite catalog of options. The goal is to build a life that you don't have to constantly question. And that means less comparing yourself to others, less optimizing every tiny detail, and a whole lot less second-guessing. And in their place, you get more presence in the moment, more peace of mind, and more actual progress. Because in the end, happiness really isn't about having an endless menu to choose from. It's about knowing what you want and needing fewer options to feel content.